Marketer of the Day, episode 643, Fueled by Culture. Create internal change, discover relentless persistence, and empower brands with influencer marketing with keynote speaker Marcus Damas.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We're chatting with a very special guest, Marcus Damas, who is a former basketball player. He's a keynote speaker, and his company and his partners include Avion, Lyft, Hooch, and Postmates, to name a few. So Marcus is an American entrepreneur. He's a retired professional basketball player, and he's based in New York City, and he's played in Sweden and all over the world. He's played for the Towson University, Towson Tigers. I have to admit, I don't know a ton about basketball, but I'm extremely impressed. And his current company, he's the founder and CEO of Fueled by Culture, which is a creative marketing agency that specializes in connecting and empowering brands with influencers through innovative content and experiential event programming. So we're going to hear all about that. Marcus, glad to be talking to you.
Thanks for having me, man. Super excited to be here.
All right. So I'm super excited to have you here as well. So what has you excited in general? What's been your focus for the last 6 or 12 months?
Yeah, so I know we'll get into it a bit later in the conversation, but this year we've been super excited about this partnership that we launched with Forbes. Forbes actually just launched a platform by the name of Forbes 8 to help entrepreneurs in any journey or any point of their journey and kind of just guide them from other entrepreneurs who have found success or might have dealt with any situation, and just to guide entrepreneurs. And so we're super excited about kicking off an experiential partnership and content partnership with Forbes.
So when you say experiential partnership, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so we, when it comes to experiential, we create experiences, events, so consumers can touch and feel a brand in person, and so brands can, engage directly with their consumers.
Okay, so what does that look like? For example, like with this Forbes thing, or with anyone else you're working with?
Yeah, so for example, with Forbes, we created a live talk series where it's like a networking event of handpicked guests and a headline guest who would, one, be on a panel and speak and just talk about the strategies, mechanics, and stories that got them to where they are. And in parallel to that, the networking and the people you meet at that event and the environment we create is so people can connect and network at the highest level possible. And this is all under the Forbes and Fueled by Culture brand environment.
All right. So is there a reason why it's called an experience? Is there something that makes it different from a usual sort of networking event?
Yeah, I mean, it's not often that you get to shake hands and talk business with the CEO of Chase, or talk to Wyclef Jean, or see, or a bunch of other talents and entrepreneurs throughout an event. And at our event, you might be standing next to a LeBron James, for example. You never know. And these people come out and they're in our network as well as the Forbes network. And, these people are all connecting at a high level, and they come there to connect with new people.
All right. So it sounds like something new and interesting, and not just the usual, let me go through the motions and go to some sort of networking event and exchange business cards. This sounds like the real stuff. You're picking up some real great tips there.
Yep.
Well, cool. Well, so how did you transition from this, playing basketball into all your new business ventures?
Yeah, so I was playing overseas, and I had my son on the way. My wife and I had our firstborn on the way, and I just didn't want to raise my child overseas. And it didn't make financial sense for us either, just because of insurance purposes and not being home. So, I told my agent at the time I wanted to kind of step away from playing basketball and, figure something else out in the States. So he connected me with our first client, NBA Live, and to initially do like wear a suit and do the motion captures, like all the motions for the game, like shooting, dribbling, dunking, and etc. And I started giving them tips on the game, and that turned into them being our first client.
Awesome. So is that seem to happen a lot with you where it's like you take some of these unexpected journeys where you make this connection and that leads to that new idea and that other person? Does that seem to be like a thing that you do?
Yeah, so I think networking is a big part of my business and my success, and meeting the right people. I wouldn't necessarily call it luck, but just taking the right amount of action for something massive to happen. Right amount of action and risk for something massive to happen for me.
Right. And I mean, you can say you don't call it luck, but it's like you create enough opportunities, you try enough different things, you take enough action, and eventually something pays off, right? You create enough luck.
100%.
Awesome. So, all right. So you work with all these big brands, and so is the core focus of what you do is these experiential events, or is there other sides to it?
Yeah, so it's experiential and branded content. So those are the two main focuses of Fueled by Culture.
All right. So what is branded content?
Yeah, so we work with brands, and just like in the experience in person, and you get to touch and feel. We create something brand specific and tailored to the brand that we're working with or talent that we're working with, and we put it on video or audio.
So is that sort of like you see the Old Spice guy coming out of the shower, or Red Bull has people, doing mountain biking, things like that?
Not so much that, but more so like maybe an interview, maybe some new content series, um, whether it's like asking people questions or a show, something along those lines that'll move the brand forward.
All right. So out of that sort of stuff, what has you excited the most about all that? Like, what kind of things, get you the most interested?
Yeah, just connecting with new people, being creative, um, challenging ourselves as far as doing things that have never been done. Things of that nature is what usually gets me excited. And I just waking up every day and being able to run this company is exciting to me.
Awesome, living the dream and doing your best. So when you've met with all these celebrities or people who run companies or people who have a lot of things figured out, have you picked up along the way one or two just really good pieces of like life advice or anything that they share with you that just sort of blew your mind?
I pick up a ton of advice from all over, right? One thing that I've heard, and it might have been from a book, but one thing that always sticks with me is I don't want to be another man that lived then died. Like I want to make sure I leave some kind of legacy and significance in this world.
Yeah, yeah, because you don't want to just go through the motions and live those years and then there you go, that's it. What was the point of that whole thing? So, what is your legacy? Do you have a plan for that or still figuring some of it out?
Yeah, so my legacy will be leaving a media impression, and just being the that African American founder that kind of left a legacy for other young African American kids, and showing them that entertainment isn't the only way out of a bad situation, but you can also create something from nothing, entrepreneurial, and change your family's lives.
Awesome. And so in this company you're building, like I know that you're all about like the company culture and the values and things like that. So what sorts of values do you have?
Yeah, so we actually have core values in the company, and is what we all stick to, and everybody kind of like chipped in and you know came up with something that stood out to them, and resonated with everyone on the team.
All right. So do you have a couple of examples of that?
Oh yeah, sure. I should have kind of led with that, huh? Yeah. So our core values are family, honesty, um, hard work, action oriented, communication, and just really the main point to us is just being action oriented and staying sophisticated. Those are we harp on those two the most.
Awesome. And like I said when we started talking, like I'm not a real sports guy. I played a few years of little league when I was really young, and I'm resonating with a lot of these value things that you're talking about where there's like there's a lot of a comparison, right, between like the sports and the business thing where you're all working as a team, you all have a common goal where it's really easy to go down a dark path of just poor sportsmanship or cheating or the mind games, the politics, the bullying. But it's a lot better if everyone works together and is honest and has that sort of hard work and communicates and kind of going through the rough patches, right? Going through the parts where things hurt or where you're working on your skills to come out the other end, and then everyone sort of is proud of this thing they did together as a group. It seems like there's a lot of relation between the sports and the business stuff.
100%. I couldn't have put it better or clearer than that. But yeah,
Ah,
100%.
awesome. I feel like I scored some points there or something. So
Yeah, you
you
did.
have this cool. So you have these core values. You have this legacy where you want to be a role model to young kids. You're working on the are you're hosting and creating these experiential events with these brands. So where are things headed towards the future? What's sort of your 5 year vision? What's in store for the future?
Yeah, so for the future, we really want to just one, leave an impact, stay ahead of influence and attention. Continue to partner and collaborate with reputable brands like a Forbes magazine. We're in talks with some partners who might be parallel in stature to Forbes, and just to continue to collaborate with brands like that, and also build assets of our own that can leave a legacy like these brands.
Awesome. So getting these skills figured out, figuring out your system, and just always on the move, always figuring out what's the next, the next opportunity there, who the next brand that you can help out.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Well, as you know, success is not a straight line, and sometimes we have some successes, but then a lot of failures along the way. So, did you ever have times like that where you just hit a wall or you had a real huge setback? Anything like that come to mind?
Well, I wouldn't say that because I think every part of the journey is a part of the journey forward. But will say that there's been ups, there's been downs, and one in particular was one I set out the goal to go to the NBA, and I fell short of that goal. So that's a failure that kind of set me straight as far as work ethic and opportunities I might have left on the table, or discipline that I might have lacked. I definitely had the talent, but there were other things that I might have missed as far as changing internally. And if you're not right within, how you gonna win?
Right. Yeah, you could have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have a good mindset, if you don't apply it in that healthy way, then you're going to be your own worst enemy for sure.
Yep.
So when you do this sort of like your keynote speaking and stuff like that, what sorts of topics do you usually talk about?
Yeah, so I usually just talk about, limitations and, not letting society put its limitations on you. I usually like to connect with either athletes or people who come from rough neighborhoods just because that's similar to my story. And I know, what I would have loved to hear coming from those places. And if, I kind of got that message at a younger age, I probably would have been better off. So it's important for me to share the story about how there is society might tell you that you're not able or capable or you don't have the resources, but there is nothing that's stopping you from reaching anything that you set forth, or if your mind sees it, you can do it.
Yeah, I agree, especially in this day and age. So you said that you fell short of that NBA goal, but as far as those limitations, and you're saying that, sometimes society brings us down and tells us we can't do it. Did you experience any of that?
I guess I did, just from being where just kind of in these situations where people, it made sense and it was easy. The easy way out was to say I'm black, I couldn't do something, or society wouldn't let me do something because I'm African American. That's something that I think it's a societal limitation, or even limitations I set on myself, like making sure I dress nice every day, or I didn't want to go to school. That's a limitation that I set on myself. Those are all things, or even like playing tough, because I thought that was how men were supposed to communicate, or how men were supposed to carry themselves, and that was another limitation that I set on myself as a young kid. So these are all things that societal issues and internal issues or limitations that I set on myself.
So, what is the way out from those limitations? Is it a matter of having that role model, or of thinking inwards, or how do we get out of some of these bad habits?
Yeah, so it's really about changing internally. You're the master of your own fate. So nothing, if you don't change, then everything around you is going to say the same. If you don't like your environment, and that's because of you. If you don't like where you're staying, your home, that is because of you. What you're driving, that is because of you. So if you set your mind to something, you just have to change everything, one thing little by little, that can change. Like, really, if you think about it in the most simple form, things like corn grows from corn, apples grow from apples. So you can only, good can only come to you if you change, or everything around you is good. And negativity comes to you if everything around you or in you is negative.
That's a really important and powerful message, and I especially like the part about how you change incrementally, right? If you don't like, if you're in a really bad situation, it's not going to get better instantly. It's not going to be like you're be in the NBA just because you want to, and tomorrow you'll be in it. Some of these journeys we're on take a lot of repeated focused effort to get there, and so I think that that's a really important part of what you were saying there, is that like change comes from within, and we need to work on that, but it's also sort of a slow and steady process, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so you had this sports career going on, and for all those reasons that you mentioned, it just what the overseas thing just wasn't working. So then you pivoted to business, and it's led all the way to this recent partnership with Forbes. And would you say that there was a specific thing that led you to that, or was it a matter of always networking, or always hard work, or how did you end up landing the Forbes deal?
Um, just hardworking, relentless, and not giving up on a vision. Just being taking the right amount of action for this to actually happen. I didn't stop as far as I know who I wanted to meet. At first I was internally speaking with the wrong people, and I knew who can kind of move this deal forward, and I did everything in my power to kind of get in front of that person and move this deal forward. And kind of I got in front of them. I executed, told them the vision, and they were ready to roll.
Awesome. I love it. So you talked to the right people, you had that relentless persistence, and you knew when things weren't working. You knew when you were speaking to the wrong people, and that part of it had to change. And so if people are getting a lot of out of our conversation here, and they like what you have to say, and they want to reach out to you, what specifically would you want them to reach out to you for, and how can they do that?
Yeah, so I think if any listener is here and they need help with anything that they think I can help them with, feel free to reach out. And you can contact me on Instagram or Twitter at Marcus Damas, at MarcusDamas. And feel free to ask questions, business questions, anything. Happy to help wherever I can. And if I can't help you, I'll try to point you in the right direction.
Fantastic. So business questions, if you need a keynote speaker for your event, if you are a brand and you need some of this experiential experience event stuff set up, then Marcus is your man. So that is at Marcus Damas on social media. And to spell that out, that is MarcusDamas. Anything to say here, Marcus, to wrap this conversation up?
Yeah. I think we definitely touched on changing internally. So I definitely want to leave, your audience with another gem, if that's all right with you.
Let's do it.
And just to touch on a bit what I was saying before, circumstance does not make the man or the woman. The man or the woman makes the man or the woman.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
All right, man. This was amazing. Thanks for having me.
No problem. We really appreciate you listening to today's episode of Marketer of the Day. Subscribe to us on iTunes and rate and review us at marketeroftheday.com/iTunes.